No, movie Jack Frost is not a minor because A, he is immortal, and B, he was specifically stated to be older in the movies than the books. His age was also listed as 17 to 18 to serve better as a mentor figure to the Burgess kids. And no, he is also not stuck in his late teens because the creator himself aged him up to a young adult in the last book and gave him physical age manipulation power so he can turn into any age he wants, and has had romances and flirtations before for the specific reason of cross-shipping. In fact, we'll get into that. And the creator has also stated that the Guardians have the ability to grow up and mature because North definitely did. So actually, between Jack and Elsa, he's the older one here. And that is the most recent information released on Jack Frost from the creator himself. Plus, according to the timelines I have meticulously arranged, Jack Frost, the spirit, was born 20 years before Elsa was even born. And that's on top of the additional 20-ish years he lived as a human before he died. And if you don't believe me, you can go and scour William Joyce's Instagram page and read the books for every single drop of Jack Frost and the Guardians lore yourself. I know you little stinkers were about to type in, "Oh, Jack Frost is 17, he's a minor, Elsa is 21 to 24, in the comments before even watching the video based on outdated information, so don't even try it, because all you're doing is just making yourself look super goofy. In fact, if people still comment that, you have my permission to clown on them a little by calling them goofy, but nothing else. Hello everyone, this is Callimara here, and no, it's not calamari. Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new to the pond, go ahead and take a dive. You might like it here. Apologies for the admittedly aggressive intro, but it always irks me a little bit when I get comments on part 1 of my Jelsa video complaining about the age gap when I literally had an entire 10-minute segment dedicated to explaining and disproving it. I don't know. If you're an anti, just say so and move on. No need to show your ignorance. So there have been a slight change of plans. Initially, this video was supposed to already include Act 3, and I was going to finally be free of this insane project that I don't know why I inflicted on myself. But either way, that did not go to plan because, in case you guys didn't know, I am now in medical school and I no longer have the same amount of free time I used to be able to edit hours-long silly videos about my strange fascinations. In case you somehow stumbled upon this video before the previous one, I highly recommend watching that one first because it contains a lot of important context, lore, evidence, and theories, essentially the entirety of Act 1 and Act 2 of my rewrite and just original writing for a sequel. But because I know a lot of you guys were wondering what happens next, in case you didn't know, all of Act 3 is now available to read on AO3. It's called More Than You Know, which was written by my amazing, talented, incredibly intelligent, incredibly hardworking friend Kris, aka The Rent You Pay, who, I kid you not, managed to write over 60,000 words for this fan fiction in 1 month of us working on this project. And for one of those days, she literally wrote 14,000 words in one sitting. And that's not even the only time that's happened. So genuinely, I am incredibly hyped and grateful and also delighted to be working with her on this, as I am actually a huge fan of hers, if not the biggest fan of hers. You can literally name any of her Jelsa fics, and I guarantee you I have read it and loved it and memorized it. So it is literally a dream come true for me to have her helping me bring this vision to life, especially since I'm kind of a bit swamped with medical school right now. And I was very ambitious on getting this out with Act 3 in it, but I had a tight deadline that I was already behind on. And I really don't want to rush Act 3. I want to do it properly and do it justice. So this will just be addendums, essentially, because of course, while editing the last video, I discovered a lot more new, interesting information around Jelsa, as well as the design for Father Time that I didn't finish in time last time. Get it? And these addendums aren't really necessary for Act 3, but they definitely enhance it, so I highly recommend you listen to it anyway if you want more reasons to be convinced on why Jelsa is a valid ship, actually. So this is what this video is for. It's part 1.5 because it's not quite part 2. It's not what part 2 was supposed to be. But here we are, and you guys keep asking me when the next Jelsa video is coming out. So here it is. Feast, my children. Okay, let's get on these. So in the previous video, I went over all of these other 3 redesigns that I did for this specific theory board rewrite that I was doing, right? We talked about Jack, Elsa, and Mother Nature, and I kind of skipped on Father Time because reasons, but now I finally got around to him, and I'm not doing myself on camera again this time because I don't have the time to dress up and be silly and set up my lighting again like last time, okay? It's unfortunate, but it's true. We're just working with what we have. Anyway, let's get into it. Father Time! Okay, here he is! Here he is! Woo! So this design, you guys can probably see that I'm not really doing proper line art. This is not line art. This is just the original sketch that I scribbled through color onto. Because that's kind of been my style recently, is kind of going for this loose watercolory type coloring style, and I really like it. I think it's aesthetic, I enjoy it a lot, and you know, it is what it is. But this is my Father Time design. I didn't initially imagine him looking like this, but he just kind of turned out like this because my sister asked me to make him hot, so now he's hot. So now here he is. So let's talk about some of his design components based on these arrows that I drew. So I kind of got inspired to do like these trimmings based off of these images that I pulled off of Google when I typed Father Time and D&D Wizard respectively. These were what came out, and I was like, yeah, I really like that, so I decided to reference that, and I think it adds like a bit of flair to an otherwise pretty simplistic design. I don't think it really needs to be that complex. It's not like Southeast Asia where every single fabric requires a pattern, okay? So yeah, you guys might have noticed that I added like a little clock with like a bunch of Roman numerals actually on his trimmings for the patterns, which was inspired by Kronos from Hades 2, and his scars were also inspired by Kronos from Hades 2. That in his case, I picture them as kind of the time sand that he wields, like flowing through him, like a sign of power. It's a different context for Kronos though, but that was my idea for Father Time. And of course, last but not least, I also have Gale down here, my favorite wizard boy from Baldur's Gate 3, mostly just for the color of his cloak, because purple is like a pretty mystical color to me, in addition to his hair, which just kind of, I didn't initially imagine him having long hair, and I didn't actually reference Gale for the hair. I just wanted it kind of like slicked back and like tidy looking. But then, I don't know, the short hair wasn't doing it for me. And like I wanted it to complement the beard a bit more. So I gave him longer hair. And I actually really liked how it turned out. So he has long hair. And then I realized, yeah, that's just Gale from Baldur's Gate. So I thought I'd put him there to give him the proper props anyway. And of course, this is just the original design. I was going for something more like this initially, just like a scrawny old man in a sleeping hat and robes, but this is what we got instead, and this is what we're gonna go with, okay? You're just gonna have to accept it. But before we get on to the rest of the video, this video is sponsored by Raycon. If you're an artist, then you probably know how important background noise is when you're working on a drawing or, I don't know, writing the ultimate Jelsa fanfiction and crossover theory. Heck, you're probably using this video right now as background noise while you're drawing or doing chores because you can't be left alone with your thoughts. I know, because I do the same thing. So a good pair of earbuds are essential for my creative process. You may have heard me talk about Raycon's everyday earbuds before and thought, wait, the same audio quality I expect from the big guys but at half the price? Sounds pretty good. And honestly, when they first reached out to me, I wasn't sure what to expect either. But after using my Raycons for a few months, no joke, they have literally become my main earbuds even over my AirPods. A big reason for it is because of its ergonomic design that fits the widest range of ears thanks to the optimized gel tips that you can swap out for a custom fit. This is genuinely the first time an earbud has fit comfortably in my ear, because I have such tiny ear holes. They're available in a variety of vibrant new colors to complement any and all skin tones. I got the blush violet color, and genuinely, I've never seen earbuds in this color before, and I paired it with the Dreamy Clouds protective case, and now it's so stinking cute, and I carry it around with me everywhere, and it's a great time. Especially when you're in med school, am I right? The batteries last for 32 hours and charges super fast. It's also sweat resistant, which makes it great for the rare occasion that you work out because, let's face it, we're artists, we just sit and rot all day at our desks. But hey, at least you're prepared. On top of that, Raycon offers a 30-day happiness guarantee, so there's really no reason not to give them a try. Click the link in the description box or go to buyraycon.com/callimara to get 15% off your Raycon purchase, plus free shipping! Now let's get to some addendums, because of course I uncover more information after my 2-hour video went live and the laborious editing process was already complete. I briefly alluded at the start that the creator of Rise of the Guardians / Guardians of Childhood series, William Joyce or Bill Joyce, added some new lore to Jack Frost in part due to cross-shipping, right? Well, let's talk a bit about that. So, my best friend Kris, who has been in the Rise of the Brave Tangled Dragons fandom for 12 years and has never stopped shipping Jelsa, what a queen, has just informed me that William Joyce himself used to like and engage with posts relating to the Rise of the Brave Tangled Dragons on Twitter, saying that he was honored to be included. In fact, she also sent me this most enlightening and validating interview William Joyce did 5 years ago with 710 Keel News that apparently no one saw because it only has 500 views. And fun fact, I was actually the 500th view. And I'll just let him speak for himself.
So Jack is part of what they call the Big Four. He hangs out with the main character Hiccup from How to Train Your Dragon, the girl from Frozen, no, excuse me, that's a whole different thing. The girl from Brave, Rapunzel from Tangled, and the four of them hang out in this fan fiction world, and these people dress up as them, and they go and have adventures of their own. But he is the beloved and in the most, probably the biggest fan base of all, of the people who worship Elsa from Frozen. Desperately want Jack Frost and Elsa to get together.
I want that.
I do too. And they call it Jelsa.
Jelsa would be great. Bill, can I ask you a question? You may not want
hold it till we come back.
So, yes, not only is he aware of the Rise of the Tangled Brave Dragons, he's seen content of it and also supports it. And on top of that, he also knows of Jelsa and likes the idea of it. He literally said that he also wants it to happen, and while his opinion is no more valid than any other member of this fandom, there is something so personally validating to hear the creator of Jack Frost himself say that he wants Jelsa to happen and that he thinks it's fun. So if you like Jelsa, you're not crazy. Jack's creator likes it too. Either that or we're all crazy. And I'm not bringing this up to invalidate other Jack Frost ships like Jack and Tooth or Jack Kunzel or Hijack, because as I've said, this is just Bill's opinion, and his opinion is no more valid than any other fandom members. I bring this up as more like encouragement for Jelsa shippers to continue creating and enjoying this ship. I think it's more like a defense of my own interests, even though I nor anyone really needs to justify why they like something, because you can like and enjoy whatever piece of media you want regardless of how cringy or childish. And I'm not extending this to actual harmful types of media like propaganda and like things that perpetuate harmful narratives and views, okay? I'm specifically talking about silly little ships between non-existent characters on the internet, okay? Not even real people. These people aren't even real. Because as numerous and loud as Jelsa shippers are, the antis are also just as numerous and loud, as I have seen firsthand on my first video. And I guess I just wanted to bring this up as a reassurance to not let other people stop you from enjoying what you enjoy just because they don't enjoy it. And actually, this is relevant to all of Jack's ships in general, because obviously we know that the physical age manipulation powers didn't come along until well after the Rise of the Guardians movie came out. My friend Kris gave the exact date of September 19th, 2017 as the day she was made aware of this. And it was only made official in the last book of the Guardians of Childhood series, which, according to Bill himself, was the longest novel he's ever written. And if we look at the timelines, this was during the time he was interacting with a lot of Rise of the Brave Tangled Dragons content, so he definitely would have seen the ship art, clearly, since he's aware of Jelsa, so it does stand to reason that the new inclusion of Jack's interest for romance and relationships, him being aged up and being older to go along with the other characters of the Rise of the Tangled Brave Dragons as they grew up, is related to this. Or at the very least, it validates the headcanons that people already had at the time. So, to all the people calling these kinds of crossovers stupid and pointless because it will never happen, I'm sorry you're so boring and closed-minded in your imagination. Sukuna X Cinderella forever! And I wish I could pull screenshots to really demonstrate this, because I'm sure they're probably archived somewhere on Tumblr, but from my cursory look, I could not find the results I was looking for. I've even scoured through the entirety of Bill Joyce's Twitter history, but considering a certain Elon Musk has made Twitter likes no longer visible, it would be impossible to find what I'm looking for from current day 2024. However, what I did discover was that aside from being very pumped and pushing DreamWorks for a Rise of the Guardians sequel at the time, Bill Joyce was also trying to push for a Rise of the Guardians series. Unfortunately, both fell through, but he made a bunch of concept art for it, which I thought you guys might appreciate. Also, check out this post from his Instagram where he talks about his ideas for the series and possibly a simplified design. It's just Jack shirtless, so I'm not really sure what the design is, unless shirtless Jack is what he meant for a simplified design. He did say half the details, so makes sense. And I kind of feel like he did this on purpose. I just have a feeling. But the important thing here is the caption, which reads, "There's so much to consider as I work on my presentation for a hoped-for Jack Frost/Guardians television series. The look of Jack will have to change, simplify. Series budgets are not as opulent as feature films, but I want to maintain the integrity of his design. The first drawing is basic old-school Jack. The second drawing is my attempt to imagine him at half the detail. Cloth and clothing are a major expense in CG animation, so the undercarriage of a character's form is important. The second drawing is an example of that. I'm hoping to incorporate the idea that I introduced in the novel, that Jack can change his age back and forth from around 12 years old to an older teen. He's carried a great burden for so many centuries. He's fought countless wars against pitch and done so selflessly. But now he wants to at least feel he is a part of things, that he belongs, that his ancient loneliness has mattered, that he can love and be loved in return, and that he can at last remember who and what he was and who he will be. To remember is very powerful. So happy Memorial Day, everyone. So, if this series had happened, it also would have introduced Book Jack's physical age manipulation powers to Movie Jack, since the caption heavily implies that the series would have been a continuation of the Rise of the Guardians movie, and interestingly has quite an emphasis on Jack wanting to love and be loved in return. Yeah, if this isn't peak fanfiction material, I don't know what is. Also, to all the naysayers in my previous video talking about how, oh, well, physical manipulation powers were only a thing for Book Jack. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that you're wrong. Man, you just keep racking up all these L's. Alright, let's dive down deep about the ice powers. Since this is such a contention that people seem to have about Jelsa for some reason, as though both of them having ice powers is a bad thing and not the coolest thing ever. Get it? No, I'm not sorry. And of course, I do have a dedicated board to this, because why wouldn't I? Again, hear me out. I'm not crazy. Now, for something that is such a huge component of why the ship even exists in the first place, and one of the main reasons why so many people dislike the ship, and such a huge component of their very design itself, it actually, shockingly, always gets overlooked, even by Jelsa shippers. Like most fanfictions I've read and most fanart I've seen, they kind of just glaze over the fact, perhaps in response to the ice power argument, quote-unquote, such that it's almost trivialized. Yeah, they both have ice powers. Yeah, they can bond over it. But no one has ever really looked deeper into it, even though there is such a goldmine of information to be gleaned from just their ice powers, and how different their ice powers are from each other. Now, this may sound shocking to some of you, but I am actually not a dedicated Jelsa channel, rather a design and writing channel. So if you guys are a pond dweller, you know that around here, we like to analyze character designs and what that tells us about the character, and how we can use aspects of the character's story or personality to elevate their designs further. So let's do that with Jack and Elsa's ice powers specifically. Now, obviously, any good art uses real-life examples as reference, and both Disney and DreamWorks definitely did their homework for their respective icy characters. Through my research, I was able to identify that Elsa's ice is based on a particular snowflake shape called stellar dendrite. I'm sure you're very familiar with how they look. They are the snowflakes that you immediately think of when you think of a perfect snowflake. Symmetrical, geometric, and streamlined. Much like Elsa. Perfect, pragmatic, flawless. Stellar, just like its name. Jack's ice, while it is also a type of stellar dendrite snowflake, is modeled after a specific formation called fern-like. So what is the difference between a typical stellar dendrite and a fern-like stellar dendrite? Well, let's take a look at these two shapes side by side. And to give you an even clearer image, watch how Jack's magic spreads out compared to Elsa's. Elsa's ice comes out with a radial spread and connects in sturdy, straight branches. When she uses her magic, it shoots out in sleek, streamlined wisps. It never widens, never spreads. It follows a single line. And of course, this sums up Elsa's character rather well. She's pragmatic, focused, and she is very logically minded. She thinks in facts and figures. She finds the most efficient way forward, like geometric shapes. Organized and structured. Jack's ice, in the meanwhile, grows and spreads, just like the name suggests, like ferns. It curls and grows in any which way. It's more organic and alive, almost like it has a mind of its own. It keeps branching off and blossoming with frivolous curls that don't really serve a purpose. Just looking at Jack's ice, it feels more free, more wild, more haphazard, the way it shoots out from his staff. Unlike Elsa's ice, each wisp meanders and does what it pleases, taking its time and fulfilling its own whims without a particular destination. At this point, you can probably see how this is a clear reflection of Jack's personality as well. He's the type to give in to his whims and act on his impulses. If he were given a task, he'd probably get sidetracked doing other things instead. He doesn't do things for any particular reason other than he probably thought it was fun or interesting, or because he simply wanted to. He follows his heart, unlike Elsa, who follows her brain. Remember the cardinal rule in good storytelling: show, don't tell. This is applicable to both written and visual aspects of storytelling. It's not just for when comics get too heavy-handed with the exposition dumps, such that you can get an entire page of just text. It can also extend to other visual aspects, such as character design and powers, which you can argue is also part of character design. Good storytellers can incorporate the writing and the who of their characters into just one glance at them, and this is especially important in mediums such as animation, especially for such behemoths such as Disney and DreamWorks, where everything is deliberate. Every single shot is planned and framed in such a way for a reason, and everything included in it is therefore also there for a reason. And so it's no accident or coincidence that they chose to portray Elsa and Jack's powers the way that they had. For all intents and purposes, their ice powers are a physical, visual projection of who they are, what they are feeling in any particular moment, and shows what cannot and should not be told. And in both Jack and Elsa's case, their ice is the storyteller's way of showing the audience what they are feeling. It's a very subtle environmental storytelling method where, for example, the landscapes of Elsa's eternal winter in Frozen 1 show facets of who she is. We see the harsh, hostile shapes of outward pointed icicles that intimidate and deter people from getting close to her in the first arc of the movie, a desperate, unspoken way of keeping people out. It shows the danger that is associated with Elsa, how her icicle can impale, and speaks of a sharp, sudden end. But we also see that these icicles don't just point outward, they also point inward to herself, showing us how she herself is afraid of her powers, how isolated and trapped they make her feel. Was Elsa's ice castle truly a monument to her liberation? A grand display of her true self? Or was it just another beautiful prison she had built for herself? But at the same time, her ice, a metaphor for herself as a character, as a person, is at several points in the movie noted to be beautiful, flawless, mesmerizing, and delicate amongst the harsh storms and sharpness, a metaphor for her inner turmoil and her intellect. And so, when I look at Jack's ice, there is also a sense of gentleness there that is absent in Elsa's. Despite his outwardly snippy and sarcastic attitude, he rarely exhibits the same sharpness or hostility in his ice, except in the times he fights Pitch, when it assumes a similarly sharp, imposing edge that Elsa's ice can sometimes have. Which makes me think that this sharpness in their ice is a result of fear, which only further enforces my theory that I discussed in the first video, that Pitch is present in Frozen 1 and meddling with Elsa's life the entire time. But aside from that, his ice is more welcoming and delicate. It's playful and frivolous, where Elsa's is more imposing and strong. But that also means that Jack's ice lacks Elsa's strong foundations and structural integrity. We rarely see Jack create structures like Elsa does. His ice is flexible and free. It spreads wider, but it is ephemeral. It's there for the moment, but will be gone the next. Elsa's ice has a sense of permanence to it, like it was meant to last and endure, to support and shelter, whereas Jack's ice brings joy and wonder. And to me, this is a reflection of the character's roots. Elsa's roots are strong and they grow deep. She is firmly rooted to her kingdom, her sister, her family's legacy, and later, her responsibilities to the spirits. She knows who she is, where she belongs, and she is the foundation that supports and protects them all. She is a fortress, a bastion, a home, which also means she's rooted in place. Jack, on the other hand, lacks these roots. The day he became Jack Frost, he was rid of the ties and connections he once had to things like family, home, and belonging. He had nothing to ground him, which meant he was free to go wherever, do whatever he pleased, whenever he felt like it. He had absolute freedom at the expense of worldly attachments. The cold winds of winter and the unyielding snowy mountain. That's Jack and Elsa to me. So yes, while they seem similar at the surface, The deeper you dig, the more you see the differences between them and how they still contrast each other despite their common theme, representing the different aspects of ice and winter. Alright, enough yapping about ice powers for now. While working on this script, not only did they announce Frozen 3, but they also announced this trading card game called Disney Lorcana. If you're wondering about my thoughts about the Frozen 3 announcement, by the way, here it is. So, until I finish this topic, I am not touching Frozen 3, okay? So don't ask me. I really can't afford to fall down another theory crafting spiral, guys. Please. I have a family and adult responsibilities. What we're focusing on right now is this extremely exciting card art they made of Elsa. I mean, just look at her. So stunning. So lilac? Yes, lilac. Look at the purples they've incorporated. I was honestly losing my mind at this because, purely coincidentally, I also chose to incorporate lilac into Elsa's palette, specifically in her eyes, and it kind of becomes a central color for her in Act 3, which we will get to in a second, but just seeing it here, wow! Immediately, my first thoughts upon seeing this design is, yep, that is Guardian Elsa. That is simply Elsa as a Guardian from Rise of the Guardians / Guardians of Childhood series. She's canon, guys, because the spell book? I am immediately thinking of an archiver. She holds all the knowledge in the world, just like how Ata can archive events of the past. Not memories, because Ata can show events beyond a person's lived experience, but everything that has transpired thus far. Stories. A storyteller. Like Mother Goose, the guardian of storytelling. Jack's book love interest, someone on Disney for sure reads this book and ships Jelsa. I don't know what to tell you. Not that I'm saying Elsa would be the guardian of storytelling herself, but the parallels. Anyways, the most interesting inclusion here to me is her cloak. A gorgeous ice cloak to go with a slightly modified version of her 5th spirit dress. Now, I am delusional, so just go with it. But I'm very intrigued by how this cloak seems oversized. Look at how big the cowl is, and while, yes, realistically, I know it's only meant to give her a stronger, more dynamic silhouette, but my delusional brain is thinking, that is Jack's cloak. The cloak that I, and many other artists, including Bill Joyce himself, have drawn for Jack. And yes, realistically, this is probably the simple matter of cloaks are cool, and it makes a character instantly more whimsical and wizardy. But is it really so wrong of me to imagine that this is a girlfriend steals boyfriend's clothes situation? Because that is all I can see, and none of you will be able to convince me otherwise. I'm sorry. Oh, but Callie, Jack's cloak is opaque and Elsa's is translucent and has her patterns over it. Elsa literally transformed her opaque coronation dress into her first ice dress of a similar color and material. It is possible. It has been done before. Listen, either this is just me looking too much into it, being delusional, a great guesser, or I have a psychic link to a writer / concept artist at Disney Animation Studios right now, and I don't know, I'm transmitting their ideas directly onto YouTube or something. Alright, I think I should probably end the madness here for now. Thank you so much for hanging out in my channel for a while. I hope your skin didn't get too pruny. Big shout out to my lovely pond dwellers on Patreon. If you want to become a pond dweller and get early access to my content or get a shout out like this, then join my Patreon. If you want to see more from me, then please follow me on all my social media. If you want to submit fan art or chat with me, join my Discord server. And if you want more of my stories, check out my Wild Word series here on YouTube because that will make me really happy. All the links are in my description, and I will see you all in the next video, which is coming very soon. Goodbye!